Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mid-Speeds live class. We're going to go ahead and get started. All right, let's start with some frequently used words. Here we go. Ready? Than, first, been, long, little, very, right, our, used, 3-word, must, it's, who, now, after, words, called, me, man, too, because, does, part, even, place, well, any, day, same, just, where, most, people, my, made, over, did, down, no, get, through, right, look, think, such, here, take, why, things, help, also, around, another, back, much, before, only, way, find, go, good, new, came, home, work, put, years, different, use, many, water, many, some, so, there, can, and, they, be, at, the, of, and, this, from, I, your, which, there, these, would, other, a, to, in, have, or, by, said, if, do, into, has, more, is, you, that, it, he, for, one, had, not, will, each, about, her, to, like, was, on, are, how, up, out, but, what, all, him, see, time, could, no, make, them, then, she, were, when, we, as, with, his. All right. Let's do some common phrases. Here we go. Which he remembered, which he remembers, which I remember, which I remembered, which you remember, which you remembered, who remember, who remembered, who remembers, will remember, would have remembered, would remember, you remembered, court reporter, where do you reside, in respect, with respect, respondents exhibit, right hand side, all right. Is that right? That is right. That's right. I can't say. I didn't say. I didn't mean to say. I don't mean to say. I don't say. That I mean to say. That you mean to say. When he says. When you say. Where he says. Where you say. Whether he says. Whether I say. Whether you say. Which I say, which you say, I would say, that he would say, that I would say, that you would say, shall be, shall believe, shall feel, shall have been, shall have had. Okay. Now here are some words that end with final F, final R, final F-er. Here we go. Beef, beaver, bear, loaf, lore, lover, river, rough, rear, safe, sir, suffer, leaf, leer, lever, cliff, cleaver, clear, chauffeur, chair, chafe, hoof, hover, hair, staffer, store, stiff, roar, rover, roof, mover, more, muff, cough, car, cover, puffer, puff, purr, dare, diver, deaf, liver, life, liar, fear, fever, fife, quiver, queer, quaif, wafer, wear, waif, gaff, giver, gear, duffer, door, deaf, lair, louver, laugh, near, knife, never, differ, dire, doff, off, over, or, brief, braver, briar. All right, let's do some medical doublets. Here we go. Ready? Medulla oblongata, parotid gland, nasogastric tube, lower quadrant, agonal breathing, chronic pleurisy, striated muscle, respiratory tract, hernial protrusion, reproductive system, cephalic vein, duodenal ulcer, McBurney incision, vertebral column, salivary glands, deciduous teeth, surgical intervention, submandibular duct, invertebral disc, pyloric sphincter, invertebral disc, abnormal occlusion, mucous membrane, dorsal surface, central incisors, tracheal rings, electrical activity, local anesthetic, carotid artery, mental disorder, inferior angle, herpes zoster, sensory organ, chemical compound, nasal septum, pigmented cells, peptic ulcer, cotton sutures, bone chisel, kidney stones, lymph node, silk suture, jugular vein, stab wound, and skin flap. All right, let's do some consonant compounds. And these are going to focus on initial FL. FL. Here we go. Ready? Florida's flag is flying proudly. The flying flare flew through the air. Flabby flesh is not flattering. The flowers flopped because they were flooded. The fluid should be flowing fluently. The fluorescent lights flashed and flickered. Flashy, flirtatious females had flipped out. My husband flattened the fleeing flatterer. I almost flipped when I saw the fluffy flowers. Flounder, flip, and flop after being caught. The flittering finch flew around the flamingos. The flyers flew their scheduled flights with flippers. The flatboat had a floodlight on a flagpole. Flappers flirt in flimsy clothes. Flying flamingos have floppy wings that flap. Flannel is flammable when lit with a flare. We killed the fleeing fleas with the fluid. Fluorescent floodlights fluctuate on flagships. Good flour makes fluffy, flaky pie crust. I was flabbergasted by her flabbiness. All right. Now I'm going to give you one more. This is going to focus on initial consonant GR. Here we go. Grab the gray grouse. The grab bag was green. They sent Grace for the groceries. Her graciousness was gratuitous. It was the grackles that we graded. The gradations were very gradual. The grader gave me a great grade. Your gradients were grouped. When you graduate, you feel great. A grafter uses a grafting tool. Graft a green tree in a group. Don't mix the grail with the grain. His grammar was grand. You have a gram of greatness. We had a grand group. Grandfather greeted the Greek crowd. The Grand Canyon has grandeur. A Spanish grandee is a grand duke. The grand jury was greeted gratefully. Grandma and grandpa were great grandparents. All right, let's do some names and addresses. Here we go. Ms. Gwen Russ, RUSS, Lake Taylor High School, 1384 Kempsonville Road, Norfolk, Virginia, 23502. Ms. Marie Waldron Ryder, RYDER, Kidda Regional High School, Road 4, Halsey Myrtle Grove, Newton, New Jersey, 07860. Mr. Frederick P. Logan, Jr., LOGAN, Warren County High School, 15th Street, Fronter, Colorado, 80201. Ms. Irene W. Vatano, VATTANO, 207 Purcell Circle, Urbana, Illinois, 61801. Gail W. Mason, MASON, 905 South 5th Street, St. Peter, Minnesota, 56082. J.S. Macy, MASSEY, West Philadelphia High School, 47th and Walnut Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19139. Cynthia M. Schuerman, SCHEUERMAN, 3438 South Granada Avenue, Spring Valley, California, 92077. Ms. Barbara J. Flewell, FLEWWELL, 21 Lenham Road, Stamford, Connecticut, 06903. Annette C. Tarleton, TARLTON, Bowman Senior High School, P.O. Box 513, Wadesboro, North Carolina, 28171. All right. Let's do some legal phrases. Here we go. Provisions of the charge. Take into consideration. In our ordinary language. Alleged negligence. Sole and proximate cause. Not meant to indicate. Throughout your deliberations. Ascertaining the preponderance. Number of witnesses. Evidence applicable thereto. As brief as possible. Corroborating evidence. Exclusive judges of the facts. Contributed to the cause. special legal significance, in and of itself, presumption of guilt, influence of an intoxicant, throughout your deliberations, number of witnesses, evidence applicable thereto. All right. Now, I've got one last drill. This is going to focus on words that have final NG and NING endings. I'm going to give you the words first and then read you the sentences. Okay. All right, here we go. Range, rung, running, plunge, revenge, avenge, singe, sung, sunning, change, lunge, hinge, binge, mange, wing, winning, sponge, cringe, expunge, fringe, strange. He loves winning. You just wing it. Are you winning? They took revenge. The dog had mange. You sponge it off. I fixed the hinge. Was he deranged? Change the plea. The fringe is torn. He's a sponger. He has sung opera. Bend the flange. I went on a binge. Use a new sponge. The exchange rate is high. Where are you sunning? That is a strange story. The dog lunged at me. He may be unhinged. He plunged into the case. It just made me cringe. It was just tinged. The defendant cringed. They exchanged ideas. The material is singed. The price is in my range. Rearrange your plans. He sought revenge. Use the firing range. The case hinges on him. The record was expunged. What's the verdict range? He has sworn to avenge it. Sleep off the binge. Don't seek revenge. We exchanged the information. It's a patent infringement. Make the correct change. It's a strange case. He's running for mayor. A bell has rung and rung. He plunged right in. The statute is running. I'm sunning myself. And then one of the words was supposed to be flange. I said flange, but it's flange. Bend the flange. That's a projecting flat rim on an object, serving to strengthen or attach on a wheel to maintain the position. Okay, so it's a flange, not a flange. All right. Let's go ahead and move into literary and jury charge. We'll start with literary. And I've got some straight matter. This subject is child support inequalities. I'm going to start this at 120, but I will work my way to 160. Okay. All right. You're going to hear revolutionary, alimony, equalize, legislative, acrimony, non-custodial, discrepancy, alleviating, automatic, sociologists, garnishment, inescapable, implicit, health insurance, which the brief for insurance is INS, child support enforcement amendments, optimal, legislative. That's about it. All right. So I'm going to start at 120 and work my way to 160. Here we go. Ready? When California first passed the nation's first no-fault divorce law back in 1970, judges, lawyers, and sociologists hailed the measure as a revolutionary step designed, in part, to remove all the acrimony from the divorce process, to allow people to remain parents to their children. 40 years later, acrimony may have declined, but so have economic protections for millions of women and children. 85% of divorced women are awarded no alimony at all. When judges divide family income, they often give the husband 2/3 and the wife and children 1/3. Despite court orders, non-custodial fathers repeatedly fail to pay nearly $4 billion in child support each year. As a result, divorced women and their children experience a 73% drop in their standard of living during the first year, while their former husband enjoys a percent rise in theirs. These are among the sobering statistics from a 10-year study of divorce based on an analysis of 2,500 divorce records and interviews with hundreds of judges, attorneys, and divorced men and women. Hardest hit have been middle and upper middle class women, groups formerly protected by alimony and child support. Alimony awards to mothers of preschool children have dropped more than for any other group, with only 13% receiving spousal support. The evidence is just inescapable that some lawyers and judges are saying that if women want equality, this is a way to give them equality. These technical attempts at equality are misguided because of the economic inequalities between men and women in the larger society. In the near future, there doesn't seem to be the kind of equality among women that would allow the premise of the current law, which is that men and women can be equally responsible for supporting themselves after a divorce. This is essential because women are still much more likely to be the primary caretakers of the children in most families. Alleviating some of the injustices in the system requires a redefinition of marital property. Instead of counting only tangible assets such as the family home, furnishings, cars, and investments, courts must consider career assets. These include pensions, health insurance, education, and professional licenses. To include these from divorce settlements is like promising to divide the family jewels equally, but allowing the husbands to keep all of the diamonds. There are still discrepancies in career assets. The only way to be fair about dividing the assets is to add them together and then divide them equally. Marriage is a partnership. If two people really believe in the partnership, everything they acquire during the marital partnership should be joint property and should be divided equally. The call for legal and judicial change becomes more urgent in light of recent census data. Projections show that 60% of all children born in the United States today will spend part of their lives in a single-parent family. Among women in their 20s today, 40% can expect to be in a single-parent family at some time. Already half of single mother, head of household families live in poverty. To reduce that poverty, it was recommended that child support awards be based on an income sharing approach to equalize the standard of living in the custodial and non-custodial household after divorce. Awards should include automatic adjustments for cost of living increases. One progressive step came in October when the Child Support Enforcement Amendments went into effect, requiring wage garnishment and intercepts on income tax refunds for parents who do not pay court-ordered child support. Studies show that men who earn between $100,000 and $150,000 a year were just as likely not to comply fully with child support orders as men who earn only $50,000. It is so easy for them not to pay, so optimal, that they know they can get away with it. A law has now been recommended mandating support for children over 18 who are still dependent. There are women who aren't getting child support because their kids are over 18 and are supposed to be independent, who in fact are supporting children in college. For these older women divorcing after long marriages, there must be clauses allowing them to keep the family home and maintain the same standard of living as their ex-husbands. Beyond these legislative reforms, how can women protect themselves while they are still married? First, it is important that all women stay knowledgeable about the type of assets they have. In addition, these women should consider a legal contract that says, in effect, if I take time out of my career to be a mother, to invest in your career, to be a helpmate, then we have to recognize that I deserve something in return for that. In fact, that's the implicit contract. All right. Let's do some jury charge, jury instructions. All right. I'm going to start at 120 and I will work my way to 160. Okay, here we go. The jury has returned. In response to the question from the foreman, in considering the definition of assault with intent to commit murder, we will clarify wrongful act and attempt was unlawful. I am going to read to you the legislative definition of assault from the Penal Code. The Bar Review Committee has included some other words that probably created some of this confusion. Assault is an unlawful attempt coupled with a present ability to commit a violent injury upon the person of another. You can see in the printed instructions that were submitted to the jury and are made available to the jury during their deliberations. We have added to commit a wrongful act by means of physical force instead of to commit a violent injury. When you have an assault, what it really means is that you intend to strike, hit, shoot, or knife another person. In other words, you intend to commit a battery. I am not getting too historical or academic in my next comment, hopefully, but one of the cases that most law students read, at least, at least I read it back in the late 1990s when I was attending law school, is a case from England. This is a case I guess every law student has read, which I didn't ask counsel if they covered or not, but I am sure they have. It says, if it wasn't a size time, I would run you through, where a man has a sword against the stomach of another. In that particular season, he is not going to commit a violent injury upon another person. So the question is whether this is an attempt or not. Well, it was not an attempt because he didn't intend to commit a battery. Now, the law is that you have to have an unlawful attempt. This means an attempt that is unjustified under the law. And of course, an unlawful attempt could be a wrongful act by means of physical force. So in speaking, hypothetically, if you have an unjustified striking of another person, say not in actual defense of yourself or in actual defense of another person, then it would be considered unlawful. It is unjustified, but you can have such conduct where it is not considered unlawful under the laws of the state. These are the determinations for the trier of fact to make under the evidence that is presented. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our Q&A. We're going to continue on with our dog bite case that we've been working on. And this is defense questioning. Right. Again, I'm going to start at 120 and I will work my way to 160. Here we go. Okay, so when you were describing a dog that was light brown with dark brown spots, is this dog similar to that description or the same? Yes. So that's the one he was referring to. I was trying to rephrase that question. So the description you gave before in looking at this picture, you think it's the same dog? Yes. Okay, and you also gave a description of another dog, which was white and brown? Yes, this one. Pointing to I, yeah. And that's the dog that you saw across the street? Yes. And what about the photograph of the dog that makes you recognize the spots? So the spots on the side of his body? Yes. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in while we have the photos here, but I'd rather do it all at once while the photographs are out on the table. So if anyone has any questions about them, let's go ahead and address it now so we don't have to take them in and out. Okay, looking at the photograph that's been marked as J, does that look like the dog that bit you? No. How come? Because he doesn't have to give a reason. It doesn't look like the dog that bit him. What is it in looking at that picture that makes you believe that that's not the dog that bit you? Well, I will object again to the question. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. He looks at the picture and it does not look like the dog that bit him. Counsel, if he has some reason, we're entitled to know. Well, if he is, you're not giving him a choice. You didn't say, do you have an opinion? Do you know of anything that you can say that causes you to believe that is not the dog that bit you? No. How about looking at this picture? That's G, marked as G. Does that look like the dog that bit you? No. And do you see anything that causes you to believe that that is not the dog that bit you? No. Now, you said earlier that the dog that bit you, you had seen before the day of the dog bite. Is that correct? Yes. And how long before the day of the dog bite was it that you saw the dog that bit you? 2 days. Where did you see the dog at? In the yard, in his yard. In whose yard? In their yard. Do you know whose house the yard is? No. Is it the yard at the end of the dirt road? Yes. How did you see it? Were you walking by the yard or were you driving by? No, I was in that yard riding the horses. You were in the same yard riding the horses or his friend's yard? In my friend's yard, right there. That's right next door to the yard where the dog was at? Yes. When you saw the dog a couple days before the dog bite, was that the only dog in the yard? No, there was about 3 more. Do you know what type of dogs those were? The same type. And did they all look about the same or were they different? They were different. How were they different? Different colors. Do you remember what different colors they were? No, I have no further questions. Just a few. Between the dog that bit you and the other dog, is there a difference in size? No. Other than their coloring, was there anything else different about them? Yeah, one is bigger than the other. Okay, and do you know which one was bigger than the other? This one was bigger than that one. Okay, the dog in H is bigger than the dog in L? Yes. So the dog that bit you was smaller than the other dog? Yes. Did the other dog ever come up to you? No. And how far away was it when you saw it? It was far. It was across the street on the other side of the dirt road. You could tell from that distance that the dog was bigger? Yes. You said 2 days before you were at your friend's house? Yes. You pointed earlier to picture G in the area. It was in their yard right there. That would be on the right top corner where there is a fence. Yes. That's where you were riding horses? Yes. Okay, and do you see any of the dogs depicted in these pictures there? No, I saw that one in the yard. I didn't see that one. Referring to M? Yes. What is it that you remember about that day that you remember the dog in picture M? I don't know. But you recognize this dog from before? Yes. That he was at your friend's house 2 days before? Yes. Where was the dog when you were at your friend's house? In the kennel. Was it in the cage? Yes. Was it next to any other dogs? Yes. Do you remember how many dogs were to the one side or to the other of it? No. Okay, counsel, can we take a break? I mean lunch and then continue with the others? Are you already finished? No, I think I have a few more. I'd rather go to lunch then, but I thought you were finished. Okay, go ahead with your questions. Okay, just a few more. That 2 days before, the dog in picture H. Did you see it before? No. When you were in the yard riding the horse 2 days before the dog bite, were the dogs always in their kennels in the cage? Yes. So they weren't out in the yard loose and running around? No. Do you know if the dog that bit you was a male or a female dog? No, I don't know. Do you know if Max is a male or female? He's a male. You know that by looking at his body? Uh-huh. Did you get a look at the dog that was biting you to, to remember whether it was a male or female? No. Counsel, he's already answered that several times for you. I'm sorry, but I don't recall that question. I don't have any other questions. I have just a few more. Do you want to use these? Yes, I'll take a look at these. Okay, do any of these photographs look like your dog, Max? No. Okay, shall we have color? The reporter do color laser copies of these pictures because coloring seems to be very important due to the coloring on the dogs. Sure. And then maybe you could put a new exhibit number or letter just so it's a little more clear. Do we want to do the same with A through F? Sure, we can. Probably beneficial to do laser. Might as well do the whole thing. Okay, I just want to ask a few more questions about the treatment. Okay, go ahead. You had some shots done? Yes. Did you have any fear about those shots? Yes. Did you have shots before the dog bite? Uh-huh. Were you afraid of the shots at that time? Yes. How many times did you get the shots for this dog bite? I don't know, a lot. More than one occasion? Yes. How do you feel each time? I don't know. Are you afraid? Uh-huh. Do you have anybody with you? My mom. Does that make you feel more comfortable? Yes. How do you get to school now? My mom takes me. Since the dog bite incident, have you come across any other dogs? Yeah. What circumstance? When you were walking or? Yeah, walking home from school. And what do you do when you see the dogs? I try to ignore them and just walk past them. Are they normally in the people's yards? Yes. Do you walk on the side where the dogs are? No, I just walk on the street. You walk in the middle of the street where the cars go? Yeah. So you avoid the sidewalks where the dogs are? Yes. Have you seen any dogs loose around? Strike that. When you're walking home from school, has there been any dogs loose outside on the streets? No. Have you had any other dogs ever come up to you? No. When you're walking by the dogs coming home from school, is there something in particular that you're uncomfortable about? No. Is it the barking? Yeah. Is there anything else like growling? Does that bother you? Yes. How about when your dogs growl? No. Just when other dogs growl? Yes. How about if you just see the dog and the dog is not making any noise? Are you afraid of the dogs? No. So when you're walking by and the dog is not making any noise, you're okay? Yeah. Is there any other situation where you're afraid to walk by the dogs? No. Any of them ever jump up on the fence? No. When you got bit by the dog, your mom was inside the house? Yes. Did she ever come outside? No. So you had to go inside the house? Yeah. Once you got inside the house, did your mom come to you? Yes. How soon after you entered the house? Right after I entered it, once I dropped on the floor, I said, my leg, my leg. Then my mom looked and she saw it was ripped open and bleeding. You said something about when people touch your scar, it stings. Yes. Which part? The top part. So the inside of the leg, right? Yes. So just the top scar? Yes. What about the bottom scar? A little, not as much as the top scar. What about on the other side of the leg where you showed the 3 dots? It doesn't hurt. When was the last time you saw Max? I don't know, about a couple months ago. It's been about a couple months. Okay, no further questions. Daniel, after the dog bite incident, were you ever taken to the hospital for your asthma? Yes. When was the first time after the dog bite incident? About a couple weeks after. How many times have you been to the hospital for your asthma after the dog bite? About 4 times. Did you ever have to spend the night? Yes. How many times? About 3 times. Okay. Now, of the 4 times that you were taken to the hospital after the dog bite incident, how many times did you have to spend the night there? The first 3 times, I had to spend the night 1 night. The 4th time, I had to spend the night for 3 nights. When was that? About two months ago. And the first time was a couple of weeks after the dog bite. Is that correct? Yes. When was the next time after that? About a month after. And then how about the 3rd time? I don't know. In the year before the accident, the dog bite accident, had you been to the hospital, taken to the hospital for your asthma before? Yes. How many times in the year before? I don't know. Any idea? No. Was it more than once? Yes. Do you know if it was more than twice? I don't know. Okay, now I have no further questions. Do you have any left, counsel? Yes. No, I don't have any other questions. Let me propose the stipulation. We may have to make a change or two. Counsel, I propose we enter into a stipulation to relieve the reporter of her duties under the Code of Civil Procedure regarding custody and signature of the original deposition transcript. The original will be forwarded directly to counsel. Counsel will maintain the original and make it available at all subsequent proceedings. Counsel will make the original deposition transcript available to Daniel via his guardian for review and signature under penalty of perjury via his guardian, and counsel will notify all other counsel of any changes, revisions, or any corrections made by the guardian as she reads it to and or with Daniel within 45 days of his receipt of the original. Should the original become lost, misplaced, or otherwise unavailable, or should the guardian not read it to or with her son or not sign it, then any certified copy may be used in lieu thereof at any subsequent proceedings. So stipulated. Just one more provision, that the guardian will read it to her son and that her son will notify her by telling her what the changes are, if any, should be made to his responses, and that she will then note the changes. Yes, I think that was implied because he said she would read it to him. So stipulated with that provision? Agreed, so stipulated. Thank you very much. All right, so let's do some read back. Perfect timing. We just finished this transcript. All right, so we'll do some read back. And looks like plaintiff is questioning. I'm going to read this once at 160, again at 140, and the last time at 120. All right, here we go. Have you ever communicated with Tom Conley? Yes, sir. When did you communicate with Tom Conley after you left Tilton? Once, about the first part of May. Did you call him? Yes, I did. What did you say to him? I had gotten some information that he had left Tilton, and upon calling him, I found out that this was wrong, that he was still in their employ. What was the purpose of your call? If he had left, I was going to discuss with him possible employment. Where did you hear that he had left Tilton? Through one of the employment agencies? Which one? I don't recall. Did you talk to him at any other time after that? Yes, sir. When was that? After he had left Tilton. And what did you talk to him about? If he had any interest in joining our sales team. What did he say? He didn't think so. In your first conversation, did he indicate that he would be interested in working for Victory? He was non-committal. What kind of a job did you have in mind for Tom Conley? Sales trainee. Did you ever discuss a sales supervisory job with him at Victory? No, sir. Where did you call him from in the first call? Houston, as I remember. Did you ever have lunch with him after you had left Tilton? No, sir. You only called him twice? To my recollection, yes, sir. All right, let's do it again at 140. Here we go. Have you ever communicated with Tom Conley? Yes, sir. When did you communicate with Tom Conley after you left Tilton? Once about the first part of May. Did you call him? Yes, I did. What did you say to him? I had gotten some information that he had left Tilton, and upon calling him, I found out that this was wrong, that he was still in their employ. What was the purpose of your call? If he had left, I was going to discuss with him possible employment. Where did you hear that he had left Tilton? Through one of the employment agencies. Which one? I don't recall. Did you talk to him at any other time after that? Yes, sir. When was that? After he had left Tilton. And what did you talk to him about? If he had any interest in joining our sales team. What did he say? He didn't think so. In your first conversation, did he indicate that he would be interested in working for Victory? He was non-committal. What kind of a job did you have in mind for Tom Conley? Sales trainee. Did you ever discuss a sales supervisory job with him at Victory? No, sir. Where did you call him from in the first call? Houston, as I remember. Did you ever have lunch with him after you had left Tilton? No, sir. You only called him twice? To my recollection, yes, sir. All right, let's do it one more time at 120. Here we go. Have you ever communicated with Tom Conley? Yes, sir. When did you communicate with Tom Conley after you left Tilton? Once about the first part of May. Did you call him? Yes, I did. What did you say to him? I had gotten some information that he had left Tilton, and upon calling him, I found out that this was wrong, that he was still in their employ. What was the purpose of your call? If he had left, I was going to discuss with him possible employment. Where did you hear that he had left Tilton? Through one of the employment agencies. Which one? I don't recall. Did you talk to him at any other time after that? Yes, sir. When was that? After he had left Tilton. And what did you talk to him about? If he had any interest in joining our sales team. What did he say? He didn't think so. In your first conversation, did he indicate that he would be interested in working for Victory? He was non-committal. What kind of a job did you have in mind for Tom Conley? Sales trainee. Did you ever discuss a sales supervisory job with him at Victory? No, sir. Where did you call him from in the first call? Houston, as I remember. Did you ever have lunch with him after you had left Tilton? No, sir. You only called him twice? To my recollection, yes, sir. All right, well, since we don't have any students in the live class, then there's really no need for us to go back and reread it. What I want you to do is take your notes, and you can read back all three selections, or you can choose the 120, 140, or 160 selection, and just go back and listen to that again and compare it to your notes and see how you did. Okay, so that concludes our live Mid-Speeds class. Have a wonderful day.